And welcome everyone to Crash the Draft, special edition of Crash the Pond. I didn't say welcome back because this is the first Crash the Draft, so you can't possibly be welcome back. It's just welcome. So this is a new little offshoot of Crash the Pond that we're going to be doing up until this year's draft. So everyone is ready to enjoy the draft, to know who the players are, and to know who the Ducks should pick. That's really what this is all about. So me and Jake are on this, but in addition to that, we've got Connor and Patrick who are joining us. So, fellas, thank you for for gracing us with your presence and making this better than just Jake and I talking as per usual,
and for agreeing to do this also multiple times.
Yeah, like you're on the hook now. I hope you realize that. You're
no, of course. I mean, it's been in the works for a couple months now. Good to finally see episode 1 come through.
Yeah,
thanks for having us. I'm excited.
Yeah, you're contractually obligated to participate now, and we haven't defined the terms yet, but
we won't discuss the signing bonuses.
I have a no trade clause.
Yeah, you want a no move? I'm trying to think what's the most random thing that's been in an NHL contract, but anyway, we'll figure out which podcasts you don't want to be traded to, and we'll make sure to put those in your no move clause. I won't name any names, but maybe late arrivals. I don't know if you heard of them. So
before we get going, I have 2 quick fire predictions.
Oh,
round robin, round table.
Let's hear it.
One draft related, one not. So let's maybe start with the one that's not draft related.
Okay.
Might be a little obvious, but predictions for the Four Nations final. 3 Americans and 1 Canadian. I think I see how this is going to go.
I'm going to say Canada because I don't want my passport revoked, but also I think Canada having Cale Makar is going to make a big difference. And I just think that the team that loses, it's almost like the second time you play, you're the one making the adjustments. Whereas I think it's harder when you're the one having to adjust to potential adjustments for USA. So I will be hopeful and say Canada.
I'll say 3-2 Canada as well, with the injection of Cale Makar and the uncertainty around the health of the Tkachuks and Austin Matthews. I think Canada might have enough firepower to pull this one out.
Yeah, I think I'll say 3-2 Canada is what I expect. I hope the U.S. ends up winning, but I think not having Charlie McAvoy, I think even if Austin Matthews and the 2 Tkachuks play, they're obviously not 100%. We saw in the Stanley Cup final Matthew Tkachuk, or 2 years ago, play injured and be completely just not useful at all. And so if Brady's like that also, if Austin Matthews is in that vein, and you don't have Charlie McAvoy, this is shaping up for Canada to be able to win this one. Maybe not easily, but I think Canada ends up winning it. But it should be a fantastic game. I think at the end of the day, that's my view of this, is that this game should be a whole hell of a lot of fun to cap off what has been a great tournament, largely driven by the players just absolutely giving a shit.
Wow, going right for it. I love it. Well, Connor, what's your prediction?
Well, since Jake and Patrick disappointed me, I will say 3-2 U.S. in overtime. They find a way.
I'm kind of surprised you guys, that Jake and Patrick went for Canada, because USA did beat Canada, fairly convincingly.
It was a 2-1 game.
I know, but I think that USA was the better team for most of that game. Do you disagree with that?
I think it was tight.
It was tight, but I think it's gonna be tight. These are 2 great teams.
Yeah.
I just give anything you want to add. I think.
Yeah, I want to hear more. Talk me into Canada, because I was saying it more like hopefully. I am actually a little worried, but I want to hear more about why you think Canada. So
go for it, Pat.
Honestly, I just think it comes down to health. This is a war of attrition, right?
Yeah.
Or Game 7 right now, and I just think, when push comes to shove, you got McDavid, Crosby, and McKinnon on one side, and Makar added to that group. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just a firepower issue.
No, that's fair, and I think that McAvoy was hugely important in that win for USA, and so to not have him is a big problem.
Yeah. He played 25 minutes or something like that, wasn't he? Paired with Jacob Slavin.
Yeah, him and Slavin were just dominant defensively. So yeah, I hope that he's healthy, because I don't want there to be any injury asterisks over this, but that's kind of the nature of the beast.
There's going to be injury asterisks over this, also just from the perspective of you don't have Quinn Hughes there. You don't
Yeah,
have
but
Alex.
he-
But you don't. No, I know, but just overall, you don't have Alex Pietrangelo also on the Canada side. So there can all or Shea Theodore also. Like I think either side can pull the injury card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's the other thing we have to predict?
All right. More draft related.
Okay.
Where will the Ducks draft and who will they pick? We'll start with Jake.
Wow. So for context for everyone
Quick
out
fire,
there,
just first name.
for those that don't remember when we announced this, I'm the person that's doing zero prep about this and just going to ask the dumb questions. For the three other fellows on this pod that have done a whole lot more prep than me, I'm acting like the layman. So I'm going to say the Ducks draft 5th overall, and somehow Michael Misa falls to them at 5th.
Wait. So just so everyone knows, right now the Ducks would be picking 10th based off points percentage.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they're gonna fall?
I mean, it's like
significantly.
It's like a 1 point gap
Checks
between
out.
them, and like they are that tight to 5th.
Sure, but you're predicting this team falling off, is what I'm hearing.
I mean, does anyone listening to the show, is anyone surprised by that?
Yeah, I was gonna say it checks out.
I mean, I applaud you for staying consistent, but
Yeah.
yeah. The thing too is that everyone behind them is potentially gonna suck. So I don't know how that's gonna work. But anyway, Pat, you want to give us your prediction?
Yeah, so anyone who's followed me for a little bit or knows my thought process, I think the Ducks deserve a lottery win. They deserved it last year. They deserved Macklin Celebrini with, the Ducks have had to draft second behind 2 generational players in their franchise history. So this is the year that they're finally going to win one of the lotteries and draft first or second, but I'm going to say first and select Matthew Schaefer. But they'll finish 9th. With the 9th best odds, rather.
Wow.
I love it. I love that. That's a full send. Love that. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'll go to round it out. I think that right now they're 10th. The teams that are behind them in points percentage, I'm just going to read them out loud to illustrate the thought process here. Montreal, who is going to sell and is in free fall. St. Louis, who, I mean, they're not good. Pittsburgh, who's probably going to get even worse. Philly, who is probably going to get even worse. I just don't know how they slide down to 5th, Jake. I'm looking at these
This
teams. I know that, but this
You're putting way too much faith in this team.
is Lucas Dostal going to stop existing? Like, that's kind of my thing here.
I mean, I don't think he's going to continue on a Vezina level pace.
But then you still have John
Wow.
Gibson. Anyway, the point is that there are teams behind them that I don't think are going to be winning very many games. And I don't know what team is going to rise up. So I will say, I'll give them I'll say they'll fall back a little bit and say that they will pick 8th. How about that? Is that fair?
Sure.
Is that?
Who are
And
they
then
picking?
as far as who they pick, I don't know. I'll say that at 8th, Roger McQueen falls to them, and the Ducks.
Wow.
The Ducks love their projects. They love their size. They love their
Wow.
guys who. They love their guys who they can kind of say, okay, in 5 years he's going to be a beast, and so
This checks out. He's 6'5" and a quarter. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
like Seneca was that. I mean, Seneca is that. Carlson was kind of that. Like guys who they can really project out. And McQueen is also, I think he's also really young for this draft class. If I'm could be getting that
He's
wrong.
old.
Oh, he's old. Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
thinking of someone else. But he just seems to have a lot of runway, just in terms of his frame and his skill set. He also hasn't played in a while, so we'll say they take a stab at McQueen at 8th. There you go.
I will go a little more what I think is going to happen, more so
Okay.
than like what I would want. I'll say they pick 9th. They don't move. They don't win the lottery. They don't drop down. They don't do anything.
Dang.
Shocker. And I think they will pick either Lyndon Lakovich or Caleb Desnoyers.
Wow. Bold.
I think those are 2 Verbeek picks.
They're very Verbeek picks, and I'm saying this without having watched a ton of any of these players. But
Yeah, same. I mean,
my takes are at their hottest. The less of a player I've watched, the hotter my takes are. It actually they get less hot as I watch more, which I don't know if that's how that's supposed to work. But anyway, okay. Well, interesting. Oh, I had a question for you guys. I had a fun little thought exercise. Looking at Team Finland and Team Sweden in the Four Nations face-off, where would Team Finland finish in an NHL season
Oh,
if they were an
Oh,
NHL
yeah.
team? All of your faces just went like into confusion, and I
The
I
blue
love it.
line's so bad.
Yeah, that's
you
what
got
I'm
one
asking.
rock star though. You got Miro.
Yeah.
Wait, are we going with the roster that they came into or the one they played with?
The one that they came into it with. So like
So
assume
no Miro.
Oh,
No. I'm saying, well, he was on their roster at the outset of this.
So just
So, like,
just
the
best
December 4th
Finns on a
roster.
team.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was never on the actual team that was going to play, but he was selected for the team.
yeah.
Like it's 82 games. Assume that there's 11 Finnish defensemen. Let's give them all of their defensemen.
Okay.
So assume Heiskanen is healthy. Where does this team finish?
Um.
Are they a playoff
They-
team? Let's start there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's going
I'll
first?
say,
Am I
like-
going
I'll
first
say,
or is
like,
Connor? Or
I'll
Pat?
say like 12th or 13th in the league.
Okay. So playoff team.
I think they're one of the better teams in the league. You got Rupe Hintz,
yeah.
Rantanen,
Oh, I undershot him
Heiskanen, Barkov. Like it's crazy. They got a lot.
Yeah,
They got a
yeah.
lot of players, and then Saros, hit and miss, I guess. But
Yeah, the blue line scares me, but I think the forward group overall, you look at that forward group, that's one of the better forward groups in the entire NHL. I think if you're comparing it to an actual NHL team.
Would
The
this
issue
team
is
fit
the
under
depth
the
on the blue
salary
line.
cap?
no.
No.
Just given the defenseman.
I mean, they do have
I-
an AHLer on the team.
Yeah.
I think they're like a conference finalist.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd buy
Okay.
that.
Okay. Now, where would Team Sweden finish? Now, this is not just regular season, but also playoffs. So I think we're all in agreement they're a playoff team. But
Yeah.
Yes.
is that the best team in the league?
That's
Close.
That blue line's so good.
You guys are stumped.
yeah.
I love this.
It's like the exact opposite of Finland.
Yeah.
Where I think they have really good forwards, but it's not as good as Finland's forwards, but the defense is so much better.
And
I think they're a conference champion.
wow.
I'm not gonna give them the cup. But I'll say conference champion.
I may give them the cup.
Really?
Yeah.
I may do it. I think their goaltending's better than Finland's also.
Yes.
Like,
I mean,
They're also
Saros
so deep. Their forward group's so deep. Like they might
Yeah.
not have the firepower, but they're so deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they would win the cup.
So I was listening to a podcast today, and someone literally said he didn't think that Sweden would be a good playoff team because they don't have the level of grit you need for the playoffs.
Was it Don Cherry?
No, but it might as well have been. And I just found that kind of a crazy take because, yeah, sure, like Elias Pettersson has struggled in the playoffs, or William Nylander hasn't been to the conference final, or whatever, but all of these guys put together.
I mean, has he watched Victor Hedman play? Has he watched
Yeah.
Philip Forsberg play?
I mean,
Has he watched
Gus-
Adrian Kempe play?
Gustav Forsling just won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Victor Hedman has multiple Stanley Cups.
Like, what are we talking about here?
Eric Carlson's been to the Cup final.
Yep.
People kind of forget that, but anyway, so just a fun little thought experiment. All right, well let's start with the draft though, since that's why we're all here. What I'm going to use is Bob McKenzie's midseason draft ranking. We're just going to go down the list. This is not our personal ranking. We can maybe talk about that after if any of you guys have a ranking, but we're just going to go through each player, give a little bit of our thoughts on each player, and we will just flesh this out as we go. Maybe go 10 players deep. We'll see. And we'll go from there. So, who wants to talk about Matthew Schaefer? Matthew Schaefer is number 1 on this list.
I will. So this guy shot up draft boards. He's one of the younger players in the draft. He's like a week or two eligible from next year's draft, and he's a teammate of Kerry Turance and Malcolm Spence, who we might talk about later, in Erie. But he injured his collarbone at World Juniors, as everyone probably knows. But he was electric in that one game that he played, and he shows up on the best stage, and he is, or the biggest stage, but if you were to make like a defenseman in a lab, it's this guy. Like he is Heiskanen, Makar, Dali, and like he's that level of prospect in my opinion. Like I'm usually very hard on defensemen and how they play defensively, especially at the junior level, and he's pretty technically flawless. Like, he doesn't puck watch or he kills plays early and angles guys off to the boards and stuff like that against the rush. So, and then offensively, he's just as good as anyone, like dynamite, jumping in on every rush. And, he shakes and bakes at the blue line like Zeev Buyum, and like he's just got it all. That's all I can say. He's just like the perfect defenseman, in my opinion.
Skating is just so powerful, too. I mean,
all right, I got
power.
I got the couple of dumb questions here now on this, so I'm starting off fresh for whoever wants to jump in on this. First off, do you think that he makes the jump to the NHL next year?
Ooh, well, like Patrick said, he is the one I was thinking of earlier. He is extremely young. Like I think he's 10 days away from being eligible for the 26 draft, which is just crazy. But
yeah,
I'll just give my opinion on this because I've only watched a bit of him, but I don't know why he couldn't play in the NHL next year.
Okay.
Because like Patrick said, he can do everything. It's actually kind of insane how well he skates and how well he sees the game, and at such a young age. The question is just, is that what's best for his development? But I don't know what you guys think about that, but I think he's probably NHL ready.
He's just so young too.
Right.
Like he'd be going to training camp as a 17-year-old maybe, like depending on when training camps start, which is insane. But like as far as his skill level, yeah, he's ready, but I don't know. You know how GMs are and they want their guys to beef up a little bit or whatever, but with the new NCAA deal with the CHL players, that might be a route he goes and plays college.
Oh, yeah. Connor, do you think he can make the jump?
I think he can. I don't think. I mean,
should he?
Probably not. But
yeah, well,
I don't think it'd be a situation where if he makes the jump, it would be. I think with his package and his toolkit, I don't think it would be a situation where you're, like essentially, I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is, but like,
yeah, you're
not
yeah, exactly.
compromising him, I don't think.
And that question was a bit of a leading question to a second question of, let's go with Patrick's situation of them winning the draft lottery and taking Matthew Schaefer. Yeah,
someone's getting moved.
I was gonna say, do the Ducks make the stance of him not being on the team because of how many left-handed defensemen they have? Do you think a move happens this offseason? Because I would assume, and jump in if you disagree, but he would be better than any of the guys that they have on their left side.
Oh yeah,
yes,
by a huge margin.
And I guess who would he make expendable? Who is he most like where you would be fine moving that player on the Ducks?
Man, that is a great question. I think he makes them all expendable. Because he's a better skater than all of them. He is a better offensive player than all of them. This part I don't know as well, but from what Patrick was saying, defensively, just the way he can skate, he's going, and with his size too, he's going to be able to defend better. So, I mean, if you're thinking about trades, and we've talked a lot about, people are going to get upset me saying this, but like if you thought about selling high on Jackson Lacombe, maybe this should embolden you to do that, but he makes any of them expendable. I'm curious if you guys agree or disagree, though.
I think whoever of the three give you the best return.
Right.
Pretty simple. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Zellweger for Marner with an extension.
Yeah. I mean, you could really get pretty aggressive in trading. I mean, obviously, like ideally you don't trade any of them, and hell, you can put someone on the right side at that point, but he is such a difference maker that you're kind of emboldened to go and help out your forward group or bring in a righty, or I don't know, just do anything to help other areas of the roster.
And one more question before, if you guys want to vamp a bit on Schaefer, want to move on to whoever it is next. But with him being kind of Bob McKenzie's number one, and obviously Patrick's number one, with kind of him being who he would take at number one, is there a sizable gap there between him and potentially whether it's James Hagens, Michael Misa, Porter Martone, looking at Bob McKenzie's list? Or is it tight where you would potentially trade down, or just because of the situation the Ducks are in with how many left-handed defensemen they have? Or is it clear cut, he's the one you take and then you figure out your team after?
The latter.
Yep.
Yeah,
He's
I think
that
that's a good question. That's a good question to ask. But he is so much better than what they have on the blue line that you really don't even hesitate. Even though, like you said, in theory he adds to the logjam, but it's like,
Yeah.
you adjust because of him. You don't really think twice about it. But that is a good question to ask.
Yeah,
Thank
a
you.
logjam problem with Matthew Schaefer is one I would not mind having.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
like the worst case scenario is that you just shift someone to the right, which I'm not a huge fan of, but like you have Matthew Schaefer on your team, so you're a much better team because of it.
Or if, like we talked about, you get a sizable return for one of the other guys, for Minchikov or for Zellweger. I mean, you're still sitting pretty there because you got your left side filled out.
Yeah. Now, you did ask, there was another part to your question, which I don't know if we should wait to answer, but about the size of the gap between him and everyone else. And I'll just give my quick response to that. I think that there is a gap, but I think some of the guys behind him are really, really good. And I think they're like I said, there is a gap, but it's not like he's hugely in front of them. But that might not be a popular take because Schaefer is kind of seen as number one with the bullet. So I'm curious where you guys are at on that.
I would agree. I think there's a gap, but it's not huge. I think a lot of it depends on how the guys behind him finish the season and how he returns, if and when he does. He'll play in the U18s, the U18 World Championships in May. But I think a lot of it will be determined there to see just how sizable that gap is.
Yeah. Like, I think that just reading a little bit today, it seems like depending on, like you said, how Hagens and Misa's seasons end, there's like the number one spot is not necessarily locked up just yet. Like if those guys have really, really strong ends, that they could potentially leapfrog him. But I would be surprised if that were to happen. Okay. Let's move on to number 2 on Bob McKenzie's ranking, James Hagens. Connor, do you want to talk? Do you want to kick off the James Hagens parade?
Why don't you do Hagens? I'll do Misa.
Okay, perfect. Because I love James Hagens. I'm just going to come out and say it. I am a huge fan of his. He is a center for Boston College. He is a freshman at Boston College, and he is not having the season that people were hoping, and yet he has 31 points in 29 games as a freshman. He is not particularly young for this draft class, but for me, when I watch James Hagens play, I just see a prototypical first-line NHL center. He skates well. He sees the ice well. He can manipulate defenders. He's got a good vision of the game, really high hockey sense. He's got a good shot, good playmaking. Basically, every aspect of his game, in my opinion, is at least like a B+, A-. Now, I think the knock on James Hagens is that he doesn't have that Matthew Schaefer thing, that electrifying skating or that thing that kind of makes you just get out of your seat. But he's just so good in every area that this is a guy who I think at worst is going to be a really good second line center, but I would be pretty shocked if that's where he ended up. So I'm a huge fan of his. And if the Ducks were to select him, I guess that's the second part of we can do that as the second part of this. I am very curious what they would do because they have a bunch of centers as well. They have a logjam, but he is another guy who I think you make room for and you figure it out. So let's hear the Hagens takes. Did I say anything flagrantly wrong is what I'm curious about.
No, I don't think so at all.
Well, what do you guys see if the Ducks were to draft him? Where do you see him fitting into this lineup and maybe some corresponding moves that could come about?
Yeah, I was going to ask that because, I know we don't want to talk about it or keep talking about it, but, does that kind of bring back into the fold, talking about moving Mason McTavish, talking about, potentially if it makes sense, if you get something you like, moving Trevor Zegras as well. Like, I think it also depends. And again, this has been another exhausted topic, but, how okay with you, or how okay are you with playing Zegras on the wing? How okay are you with playing McTavish on the wing? Where you see them in the future. I don't think you're moving Hagens to the wing.
No.
I don't think you want to either. I don't necessarily think you want to move Carlson to the wing either. So it's like, I think
it creates questions.
It creates questions, but it's another situation where you just make the pick and figure it out later.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. And I don't think he's going to be necessarily close to the NHL like Schaefer or maybe Martone, we're going to talk about later, is. Mm-hmm. So he might have another year or two at BC. But like Felix was saying, he's just such a polished player. He connects plays so well. The goal scoring is a little down. I think he's got like 8 goals. But I think we got spoiled the last 2 years with Fantilli and Celebrini in college, and like that, we think now that's what a freshman should do. And this is a very good freshman season from a very good player who's, he doesn't have quite the build that those guys have, but I think just he's a hockey sense guy. Like his IQ is just through the roof, and the way he reads defensive structures in front of him, and he's got that anticipation thing that we like to talk about with Zegras, where he just knows how pucks are going to come out away from the boards and stuff like that. So I think, he's a great player.
Yeah, and I think that's one aspect that maybe isn't getting talked about enough, especially now there's talk of him maybe sliding to 3, and it's that he is a freshman in college, and the degree of difficulty is higher than, let's say, a guy who's like in his 3rd OHL season. Like I think that should kind of factor into the analysis. He's playing against older players. I mean, college hockey is a very good level. So yeah, he only quote unquote has 8 goals, but he's still above a point per game as a freshman. So I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, and what did he set the record at the U18s, the U18 World Championships for most points in a tournament? He's got like, and then he had 9 points at the World Junior Championship. Like this guy can produce. He's just like, and against the best players. So I think that kind of leveled the playing field a little bit and kind of showed what he can do.
Yeah, and it's just funny because again, I think Matthew Schaefer is great, but if someone told me I'm taking Hagens over him, I'm not screaming at that person because I get it. I think Hagens is just that good. So
yeah, I get that too. I mean, I think 8 times out of 10 it's still going to be Schaefer at 1, but there's a team or two I could see that they have a certain gap down their pipe. If they have a certain gap in forward down their pipeline, or they don't have that marquee key center prospect in their forward group, I could see them passing on Schaefer at 1.
Yeah. I mean, I would be shocked if it were to happen, but if someone just told me I like Hagens better than Schaefer, like I get where you're coming from. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that team at 2 is going to run up to the podium to draft Schaefer.
Yeah.
I don't think taking Hagens over Schaefer. I know some people are probably going to make it seem that way, but I don't think it would be this fireable offense, or it's one that comes with a lot of understanding.
You're getting a first line center, which is not nothing. Okay, Jake, do we have time for one more player, or did you want to talk about something?
You know what? Let's jump in and talk about something. So, we're talking about all these young players right here. All the James Hagens, we're Matthew Schaefer, all these guys that for sure every team is going to say they need to put on some muscle mass. They need to put on some weight. They need to hit the gym, hit the weights. Well, if you want to be just like those guys and start hitting the gym a bit more, putting on some muscle, check out our friends at Alpha Progression. And they have an app that is no BS training for muscle growth. Alpha Progression is the go-to app for anyone training to maximize muscle gain. They're focused 100% on that, and it's science-based and developed by serious lifters with personal training and competitive bodybuilding backgrounds. This app is a rising star in the fitness scene. They've been recognized twice as App of the Day by Apple and by far the top-rated app in Germany, and have recently started expanding their reach to its users worldwide. And their users love the user interface and constantly tell them how easy it is to use, even though it's packed with features, making it an ideal tool for both novices and seasoned lifters. And their plans are generated from scratch and according to users' needs, like what muscles they want to focus on and what equipment they have. And so whether You have a home gym, you can input everything you have. Whether you're going to a commercial gym, you can put all of that in. But there's over 1,000 trillion input combinations, and quality-wise, their plans measure up to the best personal trainers in the world. They had a coach who charges $500 a month tell them that their app follows exactly the same principles that they have. And also, strength training, for those of you that don't know, and are maybe trying to get into it, it's all about progression. And so their algorithm can analyze past performances and give a recommendation for weight and reps in every set. And I know that personally, that's something I always struggled with as I've been starting to lift more and more and more, is understanding what progression I should make, where my last one was at, because I did not like ever taking notes in a notebook, did not like using a spreadsheet. I know there are people that do that and love doing that, but I do not. And the nice thing with this app is that it will track all of that for you and tell you what the progression you should have to get that progressive overload and for your strength training. So if this all sounds enticing to you and you want to get some gains there, customers can get 20% off their first payment using the code or the link alphaprogression.com/CTP. And once again, you can get 20% off your first payment, whether that's paying $12.99 per month or $79.99 per year with a 2-week free trial. You can get 20% off that using the link alphaprogression.com/CTP.
There you go. Go check them out. All right. I'm handing the baton to Connor for Michael Misa. Let's kick us off here in Michael Misa. Oh, did we lose
Sorry, I was
Connor?
muted there. My bad.
Oh.
Little technical difficulties. I apologize. But yeah, Michael Misa. So OHL player, Saginaw Spirit, quote unquote center, we'll say. I know there's a lot of debate about whether he's whether he's going to be a center or a wing in the NHL. I'm not too worried about it. I think he could fit really either. I don't really think it matters too much. But one of the, I mean, just going on an absolute torrid scoring campaign this year. One of the best goal scorers in the draft, probably the best goal scorer in the CHL, or in the OHL. Well, probably the CHL too, but definitely in the OHL.
He's over a goal a game.
Yeah, it's pretty absurd what he's doing. So I'm not too worried about the center versus wing debate. But he's a guy. There's some talk about maybe his off the puck work maybe needs a little bit of work, but I still think he's such a competitor. I think he just drives the net really well. The way he's able to find space, the way just is always finding soft ice. I really love what I see from him. And I'm also like Jake. If I was going a little bit more hopeful, I would say the Ducks slide up and pick Michael Misa.
Interesting. So I have a question, and I'll throw it to Patrick here. Where are you at on Misa versus Hagens? Because I've watched a bit of Misa here, and I can't quite figure out why. This is now very biased, but I can't quite figure out why someone would have him over Hagens, because I think, like Connor was just saying, he does. The production is insane, and you just can't discount that. But I watch him, and I think he's a good skater. I wouldn't say he's a great skater. He does a great job of controlling the puck, is so good at getting inside ice, and is a great playmaker. But where are you at on Hagens versus Misa? I'm curious to hear this.
So I haven't really chosen one, but they're like the same tier, obviously. It's the production. Like, it's just the goal scoring is insane. He just stupid, but he has a nose for the net. But he just attacks the middle at will. It's like we kind of get frustrated right now with Leo Carlsson because he just kind of takes on 4 defenders. That's kind of what Misa does. He just takes on 4 defenders, but it works because he's in the OHL. But he's got the skill too, and he cheats a little bit for offense, but he's a competitor. He'll back check. I think the reason why he might have surpassed Hagens in a lot of thought processes is that he's just got the NHL body, that I guess, and more translatable maybe.
Yeah, he's 6'1" and 185, and he's got a ton of talent. Like, it's pretty clear. Like, I think he's maybe a better pure like Dangles guy than Hagens. Like, he's got really good hands, and he's got a good quick shot. But this is a lot of this is just because of how little I've watched him. But I watch him, like, how does this guy have 108 points in 51 games? Like, I know he's really good, but that's just an absurd amount of production. And so I wonder about that.
Yeah, you'll kind of watch a game of his, and he'll be like kind of floating here and there, but then he'll just see a loose puck and just like a bulldog, just charge after it and find the back of the net somehow. And you look up at the score sheet at the end of the game, and he's got 5 points, and you're like, how the hell did that happen? But it happened.
Yeah, I think that just for me on pure tools and kind of just the player themselves, I think I like Hagens better, but for sure Michael Misa's production is undeniable. And now looking at it from a Ducks perspective,
I was about to ask that question.
well, I don't want to steal your questions, Jake. So why don't you?
I know what he's gonna ask.
So
I don't want to steal your questions.
I mean, and I'm trying not to make all my questions about, but what about the Ducks? But I think that for everyone out there, that's
why people are listening.
Yeah,
that's what they're listening
That's what
for.
this is.
Yeah.
So, between these two, because I think looking at the rest of the list, there are centers, but from what it sounds like, it's kind of between these two for second and third. So depending on where the Ducks end up in the draft, all that different type of stuff. Which of these two do you think fit better with what the Ducks have in their system? Which one of them might be a bit more unique to what they have? What might be a bit redundant to what they have?
I think Misa's a little more unique. That's the guy who you still need more goal scorers. We love McTavish and Gauthier, but they haven't really popped off like we might have hoped at this point as far as production goes. And that's just another scorer that can make your scoring threats 3 lines deep and fit really well next to any of the, well, in this case, I guess I'd want him playing on the wing, but because he's also a super good forechecker. So I think he'd just amplify any of the lines that he's on, whether he's with McTavish, Zegras, or Carlson eventually.
Yeah, he's definitely. I think he's a cleaner fit than Hagens, because I think Hagens, you really want him at center, and the Ducks have presumably 3 centers, but only 2 of them play center right now. And
you mean Ryan Strome?
Yeah, that's who I'm talking about. Well, today it was Lundestrom at practice, but yeah, I mean, Carlson, McTavish, Zegras. The ideal is to have them all playing at center. At least that is my ideal. I don't think that that's the Ducks' ideal, but that's the ideal. And with Michael Misa, you can put him on the wing, and I think that what's nice about him, one thing I kind of noticed is that he can get anywhere he wants with the puck on his stick. Like he is really hard to knock off the puck, and I think
sturdy.
Yeah, and I think as much as you love the talent that the Ducks have put together, they don't necessarily have guys who just get to the middle at will. Like, maybe McTavish is that on a good night. Carlson is still learning that, and Gauthier can do that in spurts, but Michael Misa has that now. And he kind of unlocks that area of the ice that maybe is a little bit forbidden for them right now. So maybe I'll say Misa.
It's just that natural, I know Patrick said it earlier, but it's that natural kind of bulldog mentality that I think that is not, or is kind of sparsely populated amongst the Ducks young core and prospects and everything. And I think, I was talking with someone, and this is kind of going back to Jake's question, but I was talking with someone in the Discord, I think it was like a week or 2 ago, about, if the Ducks were faced with the choice of Hagens or Misa, what do they do? And I think he and I both agreed that we think Verbeek and Madden go Misa. Now, is that a little bit more of an egregious offense than, passing on Schaefer for Hagens? I also don't think it is, but I think it's another scenario where like you can just pick either and figure it out. And I don't really think taking one guy over the other is really going to leave you lacking.
I do think that if you draft Hagens over Misa, you're kind of almost saying we're redoing our forward group, because he has to, I think he has to play center. Like it's just,
I hadn't thought of it that way. That's a good point.
But like, and so that means necessarily, in my opinion, that Zegras and McTavish, either one of them is going to be the 3C, or both are going to be on the wing, and maybe that's fine. I mean, hell, Hagens Carlson is a hell of a 1-2 punch down the middle, but Misa kind of allows you to keep your mix and just add a little spark to it. So,
yeah, I think it's more of a seamless transition if you go with Misa.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Okay. Well, Patrick, why don't you kick us off here on Porter Martone? Fun name, by the way. Good hockey name.
Yeah, another good name.
A lot of fun names in this one.
Yeah.
So Martone's another production wizard, but he's captain of his OHL team, Brampton, I think.
Yeah.
But he's the prototypical power forward, but he actually creates a lot of his chances off the rush, surprisingly, with just like change of pace stuff, because he's not the fleetest of foot, but he can manipulate the defenders in front of him and kind of get to where he wants on the ice, like Misa can, just in a different fashion. But he's the guy that gets to the net, and he tips every puck, and he's got the size, the NHL build. He works the corners really well. And then also another thing about him is that he kills penalties for his team as well. So he's got a really nice active defensive stick, and breaks up plays as a winger like Troy Terry does, in my opinion, in the defensive zone. But the thing that really, my question is like, why isn't this guy a center? And is it just like, because he's not like a great forechecker in my opinion, but he does like all the other winger stuff. Like he just lives on the boards. But I just feel like in the OHL, this guy should be a center. But for whatever reason, he's not. And, it might hurt his draft stock a little bit, because if he was, he might even push for number 1. But yeah, he's a, there's not a lot of flaws. I make a sheet that I printed out here, and I like gave guys little plus minuses. Well, yeah. I gave guys little plus minuses for every like attribute that I like or don't like, and like the only minus I have for him is like, why isn't he a center?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna just jump in immediately because I have a lot of Martone thoughts, and I think that what you're pressing at there is, I think that there's not the pace of his game is kind of what's maybe why he's not a center, because I feel like everything that he does is kind of like he's that second touch where someone else makes a play, then he comes in and he can finish it off or make the next play. Or on the rush, he's a great dual threat guy where he's got that booming shot, but he's also a great passer. And I think the skating isn't a weakness, but I think he kind of operates as that support player a little bit more. And maybe that's why he isn't a center. I don't know. But that's the thing that I come away watching for him is like kind of like what you said is like, he's got the production. Shouldn't he be a shoe-in for higher in this draft? But I think for me, it's that he's just not as pacey as like a Misa or a Hagens that are just like everywhere. They're just like worker bees. But yeah, Jake, can I steal your question?
Sure.
From a Ducks perspective, he is the cleanest fit.
Yep.
Because although we may wish that he was a center, he's a winger. He's 6'3", 207, power forward, great shot, and he's also got a really nice vision off of that shot where he can fake the shot and set up a pass. And that is a guy who you just plug in and play to this lineup. You don't have to trade anyone. You don't have to ask any existential questions. You just draft him and play him. Connor, is that how you kind of see him?
Yeah, I mean, having Terry, Seneca, Martone on your right, I mean, that's pretty disgusting. And then having Carlson, Zegras, McTavish down the middle, it's a great place to start, I think. Well, I mean, not start because we're already into this rebuild, but this is like a great group to build off of and go forward with and actually start making a push. But yeah, I agree. I love the versatility in Martone's game. You both kind of touched on it. He's able to finish off chances, but then he has the playmaking ability to create chances on his own, also create chances for other people. He's kind of one of those, silky power forwards that we see have a lot of success in the NHL. And I'll just kind of reiterate, the pace and the skating might not 100% be there. I don't know if I'd call it, you probably wouldn't call it elite, but I think it's an area where his other tools more than enough make up for it.
Let me ask this, and this is more so for Patrick, but so you had mentioned kind of him playing center or him playing wing, and the only downside of him playing is him playing center. And if he was playing center, he might get shifted up to being potentially first overall. Do you think he could be the best value in this draft then, from that perspective?
Yeah. I never thought of that, but yeah, I think that he's definitely a contender in that. Obviously, there's going to be guys in the second, third round that we don't know about yet that will or that could. But as far as these guys that we're talking about, yeah, I think so, because he's got every tool that GMs look for and that we know translates well. Like there are guys that play like Hagens, just not as many as there are that play like Martone, you know what I mean? So the translatability is there.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got 82 points in 44 games, so the production is definitely there. Also,
And kind of
go ahead, Jake.
the other reason why I'm asking that specifically is that let's say the Ducks end up in the 6, 7, 8, 9 range, something in there. It sounds like he's not necessarily a lock in that same group of the Schaefer, Hagens, Misa, where maybe he falls a little bit. Maybe for whatever reason that could happen, and that could be someone that maybe you really find some good value and some found money there.
So I think looking at the guys behind him, I think he's firmly in his like 4 spot.
Yeah. I'd be very surprised to see him taking it 5th or 6th.
He's kind of mentioned consistently in this
in
top
that group?
4 grouping. Like this draft is kind of seen as you have this top 4 and then this other next big grouping. But
there was the first dumb question.
No, I mean, but we're like
there are candidates to fall. Yeah, there are candidates to fall in this draft, but I don't think it's one of these 4 guys.
No, all good.
Yeah, I mean it's good to ask these questions because people that are listening don't know. So it's you're asking for them.
I have no issues with asking these dumb questions, to be clear.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that ended up being a dumb one.
He also does the thing where he spray paints the bottom of his stick white.
Oh, that's a good look.
With the white tape job.
I do like that look.
I don't know how I feel about it. Very William Nylander-esque.
Ricard Raquel used to do that. I think Sam
I was going to say, remember that one CCM stick? It was kind of red up on the top half of the shaft, but then like it just faded into all white. It always
the RBZ.
Really slick.
Yeah, the RBZ.
Yeah, it always looks so slick.
Yeah, he's got that, and it makes it harder to see how he's puck handling. I don't know how to say it. So it just kind of annoys me. But yeah, he's just such a clean fit for the Ducks. And if they were to I think that Pat Verbeek probably has this guy number 1. Like if we're being honest, 6'3", big, can shoot. Anyway, okay. Next up on this list, Anton Frondell. So this was again Bob McKenzie draft ranking. For those who don't know, is a poll of NHL scouts that he takes at different junctures of the season. This one was taken. This was the last one. It was January 22nd. I think he does a beginning of the season, mid-season, and then leading up to the draft. So at the time, Anton Frondell was at number 5. So who wants to talk about Anton Frondell? Because I'm not going to talk about Anton Frondell.
I mean, it's kind of one of those guys, and McQueen's a little bit the same way, but just kind of had an injury-riddled season that I think has really affected his stock. There's some other things in his game that I think have affected his stock too. I mean, to start off with the positives, though, I mean, there's no doubting the shot. The shot is probably the best thing in his toolkit. It's pretty absurd. He likes to hit people. He plays hard, I think. He's not. I wouldn't say he's your typical, skillful Swedish guy, like that. We all like to think about, but the biggest question with him, I think, is he able to truly dominate games on his own consistently? And we've seen little smatterings of that, but it hasn't come, like the dots haven't been connected. And so I think that's why you're seeing this huge, kind of variance where, some people still have him in the top 5, but some people have dropped him all the way back to, 14, 15. I think I saw somebody rank him like 19th or 20th, which I think is a little aggressive for me, but yeah, he's kind of one of the early guys that we're talking about where, I think his spot is maybe a little in jeopardy. I don't think it's as in jeopardy as some people are making it seem or as it should be. But yeah, curious to hear Patrick's thoughts on Frondell.
I really like Anton Frondell, actually. I think he competes hard and he's got these little details to his game where he can kind of suck defenders towards you and then like make little slip passes under their sticks and that kind of stuff. He works really hard on the boards. The shot is great. But like and I think the injury aspect that you brought up, Connor, earlier, I think that has been a real factor because he has been absolutely lighting it up lately, and he's in Sweden's 2 division on the same team as William Eklund and often on the same line. But like he's the guy that's throwing little nice sauce passes that bring breakouts, and like he just really manipulates defenders in front of him, and he's the guy that gets in and around the net, like Timo Meier, who kind of darts in and out of the slot and just like finds tips and stuff like that, and he just finds those soft areas of the ice to kind of make himself a passing option. So I like his game quite a lot. He's a little more of a power forward. He's got in a the league against men, he's 6 foot, 195 pounds or whatever, but he still can drive, like power forward, drive to the net, and establish body position against adults, which is kind of rare. And he's already got a skill set around that area of the ice.
Yeah, I mean, he can certainly hold his own against men. And Patrick, you kind of started leading with this, but yeah, I think the injuries affecting the early part of the season, and now he's playing consistently again. I think people are starting to be like, oh, maybe we were a little too aggressive to knock him back that much, and he's kind of starting to creep back up a little bit where he was dropping in the first half of the season.
Yeah, I think 5 might be a little rich for my blood to have him at 5, but
yeah,
like
I don't have him at 5, and I still think I like Eklund a lot better, but I mean, people that have him at 14, 15, that's a little. I
think if he keeps playing like this, there's a legit shot. He's got 10 points in his last 6 games in Hockey Allsvenskan, and they just had that like international tournament where he lit it up too. He had 6 points in 6 points in 4 games. So, the production's coming around.
Yeah, I'm very interested to keep tabs on the second half of his season for sure.
He kind of strikes me as like an elite complementary player where
I like that. Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to be like a true kind of stick-on-puck driver like a Hagens or a Misa or other guys that we'll talk about, but he just has, like you guys were saying, he has all those little details and the size and the skating to kind of just support the play, make the right play, and then just move on to the next thing. And then you layer on the big finishing shot, and like to steal Jake's question, but he's a guy who would fit very well next to Leo Carlsson. Let's go Swede.
And I was going to ask this. He's currently listed as a center, but with you mentioning that he would be more of a complementary player, do you think that is long-term where he's going to be playing at, or is he a winger in the NHL?
Well, that's just my own personal opinion. So I'm curious what you guys think about that. If he's still a center in the NHL.
Depends on who takes him and what their development path looks like in their prospect pool. Because, I see winger traits, but like I haven't seen a whole lot of him, to be honest, because of the injuries, and he doesn't really he didn't play a lot early in the season. So he was averaging 9-10 minutes a game. So I don't really know what his defensive game looks like, but he's got all the attributes to be a center as well. But I like what I see from him as a winger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he strikes me as a winger, and him next to Leo Carlsson would be a good pairing, I think.
Yeah,
because he can just kind of play off of Leo's dashes up the ice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, anything else on Frondell, or should we move on to number 6?
It's good to move on.
Okay. Number 6, Caleb Desnoyers. So I will lead off because I watched a little bit of him, and he is a center playing for Moncton in the QMJHL, and he is having a really productive season. He is a April 07 birthday, so he's not super young, but he's on the younger side. Like, he's not Matthew Schaefer. Matthew Schaefer's kind of set that bar, but he's younger. He's got 71 points in 47 games for Moncton, 30 goal scorer. And as a center, 6'2", 172 pounds, he's an interesting player because you watch him play. I had the same reaction that I had to Misa, where it's like, I'm not sure how he has so many points, but I guess it's junior hockey, so things are a little different, where he's a good skater, above average skater, quick, but he can handle the puck, he can make plays, he's kind of everywhere, he's smart, but there's not that electric trait. There's not that big shot, there's not the dangles, there's not really that thing that really kind of pulls you out of your seat. But this is a guy who I think you can comfortably project as a top 6 forward in the NHL. You could be your second line center. If he's your second line center, right now I'm a little worried about how good your team is, but he's a guy who's going to make other people around him better. He's going to make plays, he's going to do the little things. And there are times where he can also do the big things because he's got really good vision. So I think he's kind of a hard one to rank because I think that the raw skill and tools might not be there, but his impact on the game exceeds that. So I'm curious how you guys see him because he's kind of a weird one to figure out for me.
Yeah, I mean, he's really smart.
Yes.
I think a very intelligent player, and just kind of going back to the way he plays, I think kind of the selling point for NHL scouting teams and NHL GMs is that, he certainly plays, I think, a playoff style of hockey. It's not the flashiest, but he just does so many things right, and I think that's just down to his intelligence and his knowledge of the game too. Felix, like you said, I think he's very projectable on the NHL level. I'd almost not 100%, but I almost kind of likened him to what I thought of Marco Kasper in his draft year a little bit. Like, he doesn't have that one thing that is just like, wow, oh my god, like I'm on the edge of your seat. But just so cerebral, and a lot of the little things he does are done extremely well.
Yeah, Connor, you nailed it with Casper, because I was like, this guy, he's the Red Wings pick. Like, he's
I will not be shocked at all.
You know what I mean? There's no there's nothing that jumps off the page. There's no sex appeal like with Misa or Hagens and these kind of guys. It's that next, and there's a couple guys like this we'll talk about, I'm sure, but it's details. It's defensive positioning and things that are important to win, but things that, if you look back, like he might be a 50-point second, third line center, and but you need those guys, obviously. It's just when you're spending a top 10 pick, it's like, man, I want and he's productive, so you got that, but you want the flash and dash. But yeah, so details, I think.
Yeah, as a Ducks fit, I think that he would fit nicely because he doesn't have the offensive kind of firepower to where, now you got to move people aside for him to play like second line center. Like, he can just kind of fit in anywhere, and he would be a guy that I think would make others better on this team because he'll just support the play and make that crazy pass every now and again too.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you're kind of saying that production might not be there, but he's a player that could really help drive play for you, maybe in a support type of role.
Well, so the production is there. I mean, he's got a ton of points, but
60 points in 37 games.
Well, now he's at 71 in 47.
Sorry,
but he just doesn't have that flash to his game, I don't think. He just, like, this is, again, I have weird things that I watch with players, but the way he holds his stick kind of annoys me because he has his bottom hand really high, and he's not really, like, he doesn't really have the puck out in front of him, like controlling the puck and trying to change directions. Like, he's very kind of like, I'm going to look one way, I'm going to move that way, and I'm going to make that play. There's not a lot of layers of deception that I see, at least. And so, but again, like Patrick was saying, you need guys like this. He's going to make people better. He's going to be a good NHL player. It's just, now it's funny, like, as you get down the list, it's like you start talking more about the negatives. It's just like, if you're drafting fifth, is that what you want to buy, basically? And it depends where you are. For the Ducks, it wouldn't be a bad buy.
So we're kind of nearing the end of this episode, almost at the hour mark. So let's do some quick hitters.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just did Caleb Desnoyers, right? So why don't we? I definitely butchered that pronunciation, and I know I did.
Face, I'm like, oh, yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Whatever. I'm gonna let that slide.
Okay.
Let's do quick hitter of each person gets one more player to kind of give a little bit on, and we'll just kind of get that out there, and then we'll wrap it up from there.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna be greedy and jump in immediately because I want to talk about Roger McQueen. He was listed at 7th on Mackenzie's ranking, and I think when the dust settles, I don't know, what do we know about his injury right now? So he's been out for a while.
He's been out since October.
Okay. So I don't know when he's coming back, but just talking about the player that he is, just to get people a little jazzed up. So he is 6'5". He's a forward, and he is 192 pounds. Before getting hurt, I mean, he barely played. He had 11 points in 8 games. He had 8 goals in 8 games. But he is just one of the craziest players to watch, where he's 6'5", again. He's like basketball height, and yet he can handle the puck. He can skate. He can shoot. He can make plays in tight. He's so tall, and yet he can stick handle in a phone booth. And so if this guy can get healthy, maybe this will be like my Caden Lindstrom of this year, where I latch on to a player who's injured. But if he can get healthy, I could see an argument for him at like number 3 or number 4. Like he is just the talent and the potential for this guy is super high. So exciting player.
Total unicorn.
Yeah. All right. Who wants Victor Eklund?
Connor.
Oh, I wanted Lakovic. You can take Eklund.
Okay, fine.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, I'll take Eklund. So a lot like William, but a righty. Again, I don't have very many negatives about this player. Like, gets pucks to the middle and quick, shifty, dynamic are the words that really pop out for me. Clever. He works space really well. I think he can stand to like utilize the boards a little bit better and make those little slip passes I was talking about with Frondell. But everything else, like electric player and a really fun watch. Basically a righty version of his brother, but slippery.
Yeah. He's so similar to William Eklund. And I know Jake really wanted William Eklund in 2021, so the Ducks could get their do-over and draft Victor Eklund.
And on that note, if the Ducks were supposedly like high on Eklund, like, yes, different general manager, but in large parts the scouting staff has remained the same.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who they like. Now we're getting into guys who they could actually get, and Eklund, I think, would be a great fit for the Ducks. Yeah. He just gives them a really nice winger to add into this mix. So, Connor, you want to do Lakovic?
Yeah, I really like Lyndon Lakovic a lot, and I think he's, I think he's a guy that Pat Verbeek will fall in love with, and fortunately, I know we like to use the the term, he's a Pat guy, he's a Verbeek guy, and sometimes that term.
Well, he is 6'4",
and sometimes, and I know sometimes that term can be used a little begrudgingly, especially in our Discord. It's kind of become a running joke, like, oh, this guy's 5'11", not a Pat guy, but Lakovic is not. He is 6'4", and just a raw player, yes, but just a tantalizing combo, I think, of just shot, fluid skating, powerful, really intelligent. He's a great playmaker. He can set himself up. He can set up for his teammates, but he can set up for himself as well. I think he can create really well. Just battles, he's good along the boards, good in the corners. I was talking about the skating earlier. He's 6'4", and he's kind of one of those guys, kind of like McQueen in a sense, but you kind of watch him and you're like, wow, a guy that large should not move like that. Mm-hmm. And it's really tantalizing. And I think, I think he'd be a great fit. He's another kind of one of those guys like we were talking about Martone. When he gets to the Ducks, eventually you can just kind of plug him in any line you think. And I think he could really support anywhere up and down the lineup. I'm a really huge fan of Lakovic.
You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Cutter Gauthier. They kind of remind me of each other, where they're just like wingers with. I think he's a better stick handler. I think he's a better like kind of dangler.
I like the playmaking ability.
Yeah.
Not necessarily from Lakovic a little bit more. I think he's a better creator for himself and others.
I see some similarities there. But yeah, he's another guy. So after having gone through all these players, I'm excited about this draft. This draft has already been labeled as a bad draft. Like I think
they say that every year.
Yeah, I was about to say, can I jump in on that? Like, I cannot remember the last time I heard that this draft was going to be a good draft, outside of maybe the Bedard draft, but still, that was based on like the top 3.
Yeah, like Cam Robinson had this tweet about how like GMs are already moving off of their 2025 firsts or whatever, because it's like. It just I feel
like that's said every year now.
Yeah,
every year there's first traded every year. Like I don't understand that.
I don't get it. And also, the thing you hear every year is next year. Next year is the year.
Yeah, and then again, it's just
and then next year arrives like last year because last year was one of those next years. And
whoa.
Well, I just remember for the 24 draft, everyone was hyping it up in 23, being like, "Oh, just wait till next year." All these defensemen.
Yep.
And then you get to the defensemen, it's like, yeah, they're all good, but like they all have their flaws. They're all, like it's another draft. It's there's nothing super set in stone. So I'm excited.
I never want to talk about Artem Levchinov again.
How's he doing, by the way?
I have no idea, to be honest.
I really want to watch him play. I do.
He's
just
in
so
the
curious.
AHL, right?
I'm because I have no idea. Did he go to the AHL or did he go back
Yeah,
to Michigan State?
he's been in Rockford the whole season.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, which I think is good for him. He just needs to play, and he's got 19 points in 44 games. I mean, I don't know what to make of that, but I wish him well. I enjoyed watching him play as a draft eligible. Jake, do you want to do questions, or do you want to just bounce, or what do you want to do here?
I think it's pretty quiet on questions part, and so I think that we got a lot of information out of here.
Yeah, I'm curious if we have. Oh, I had a take for you. I want to throw a take at you.
No.
Oh boy.
I want to throw a take at you. This one is you sent me. So you sent me a take the other day about how napping is bad.
Oh, yeah. No, to be clear, I did not have this take. This was a Subway
You sent
take.
a video.
Yeah.
Yes, this was a Subway take.
Don't put this on me.
I'm putting it on you a little bit, but because you sent it. But I think that napping is fine, but napping should not exceed 20 minutes.
I was going to say the exact
Short
same thing.
short naps are the move. Agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Yeah, if I take a nap any longer than 30 minutes, maybe if I start getting into the 45-minute hour range, I'd have a lot harder time falling asleep at night.
You're sleep deprived at that point.
Yeah, I tried not to.
Okay.
Midday hour and a half nap. Fantastic.
Hour and a half? That's crazy.
That's a REM cycle.
Well,
Like that is
exactly.
That's too much.
That is your body telling you that you are sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Okay, well, assuming all things are accounted for sleep-wise, a nap should not exceed 20 minutes. I actually can't
agree.
sleep longer than 20 minutes during the day. Like, my body wakes me up at like 14 minutes. So,
I usually just can't nap. Anyway, like I had to have had a hell of a day to be able to take a nap.
yeah, I just need to be sleep deprived. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Patrick,
That's
do you have
about
a nap stance?
Well, like Jake, I wake up early and I have a 2-year-old, so
Yep.
it's like you get sleep when you can. Like I have to do my work at 4 or 5 in the morning, and then my kid gets up, and then when she goes to sleep, that's when I take a nap. But it's typically like 50 minutes to an hour. But it's basically just to catch up.
Yeah.
I'm always chasing sleep, always
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah.
The two guys with children, very similar answers.
I feel
I was
feel
gonna
bad
say-
now. I feel shamed. That's okay.
I was about to pull the kid card, and I was like, I'll let Patrick do that first.
Yeah. Well, hey, I respect it. But that's the thing is like you guys aren't quote unquote napping. You are catching up on sleep that you didn't get.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I would say that's always what a nap is. Wait, here's a question actually for you. So are all NHLers wrong then? Because they
Yes.
all take like midday, like 2 to 3 hour naps.
Well, they are sleep deprived. I mean, they have their travel
That is
schedules.
fair,
are
the
crazy.
travel and
that
everything.
well,
yes.
and they're
That's fair.
more like. Have you ever thought about that? Now, complete tangent, but like, Patrick, you would know better. What time do practices or morning skates start?
10.
10?
And then they're over probably like 10:45, and then they'll
So and the
stretch,
players
shower,
are
and
the players
What
are
time do they
probably
get
in
there
the
for a morning
the
skate?
players are probably in the building probably 8 a.m. I would imagine 8 or 9 a.m.
I don't know about that early.
At least
I
an
wouldn't know.
hour. At
Wait,
least
the
an
players
hour
get in 2 hours before?
to warm up. Stretch,
Maybe the
like,
old
do any
guys who
treatment,
need like body work. but
goalies.
no.
but
It-
still,
but
like-
morning skates aren't like practice. It's like a
Fair.
leisurely little jaunt,
Fair.
It's a
like
twirl.
a couple flow drills, and
But
that's
still.
about it. Yeah.
Especially these guys are the guys that like after a game they probably don't go to bed till 1 or 2 a.m. would be my bet. And
Well,
so
they also drink crazy amounts of caffeine at like 6 or whenever they arrive to the
oh,
arena.
I thought you were
like,
about to go with alcohol, but yeah,
Well, I'm not going to come on that. But like Trevor Zegras shows up with like a venti cold brew, and that's at like 5 p.m. or whatever. So there's
Yeah.
no way he's getting quality sleep after the game. It's
Yeah.
impossible.
so catching up on sleep.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
I mean,
is
that's
that-
really all that a nap is.
Yes, but I think that there is this culture out there of napping, like the siesta. And I think that some people are like, yeah, I love napping. And that may be true, but I think that for the most part, people who nap are just people catching up on sleep.
I think
Which is
it,
what-
but I think you're framing it incorrectly. I think probably people that enjoy napping probably adjust their sleep and they don't sleep 7 hours, 6 hours straight at night. They instead will do like 3 to 4 hours at night, and will do a nap in the middle of the day so they can enjoy their night more.
Okay. Have you heard of this? There's a mode of sleeping where you sleep, I think it's 2 to 3 hours, and then you get up for an hour, and then you
It's
sleep
called
another.
having a child.
Well, this is like a thing. This is a thing people do, like voluntarily without children. And supposedly this is how people slept in like, thousands of years ago. So supposedly it's better. I will not try it. I will just sleep while I can. So anyway, all I'm saying is that I don't think there's really a thing as I'm going to voluntarily seek out napping. It's a thing you do to make up for something else that you didn't do.
Sure.
Is that a bad take? Maybe it is. Maybe I'll hear about it. Okay. Well, this was fun. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will do this again. Fear not.
100%.
We will do this again. The draft. When is the draft? When the hell is
Usually
it?
end of June.
June something?
28th, 27th.
Decentralized this year. So that's
It's always around there.
It's going to be in LA, right?
it's in LA, but it's not in LA, right? Isn't that the whole thing?
What?
They're not doing it in person how they used to.
Well, it's going to...
Well, the players are going.
People, yeah, there still will
And
be people
those-
there.
Teams
Right.
won't be there.
Teams and their
Teams won't
staff
be
won't
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe there might be like one
It'll be like the
representative
NFL
for
draft.
each team. Yeah.
Yes. It'll be at the Peacock Theater. I don't know where that is.
It's what used to be the Nokia Theater, I think.
Okay.
Across from Staples Center. Well, Crypto.
Yeah.
I did it.
Damn, you're
Yeah.
aging yourself there.
100%.
Does anyone actually call it crypto, by the way?
I don't know.
I hope not. I really hope not. Just call it Staples.
I call it crypto.stables.
Staples is a way more honorable
I
business.
feel
than
like
crypto.
I feel like that's like saying it was the Honda Ponda.
Yeah.
Do people still call it Arrowhead Pond?
No.
No one ever calls it Arrowhead. People still call it the pond, which I'm okay with.
I mean, our podcast is literally called Crash the Pond.
That's true. Well, now it's Crash the Draft, so we'll see about the
Fair.
pond. But yeah,
I'm excited to see where the Ducks season goes because if we did this a month ago, we're talking top 5, like
Yes,
no doubt
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And now it's 9-10, like that's crazy, and who knows how much it'll change in the next month and a half.
Fifth
Well,
Yeah, I got to be honest. I checked this
Fifth
morning
overall.
and I was surprised that they were at 9-10. I was like, oh, I thought they were like 5-6.
Well, let me ask a better question then. Do you think the Ducks draft position will either... What's likelier, that the Ducks draft position goes up, that they're picking 11 through 14, or that they drop?
Drop.
They could win more games. Like, this is possible.
I mean, they're going to win games.
No, but I'm saying, like, they could go on another run. Maybe they'll start playing well. And
Maybe.
get great goaltending.
Maybe.
Like this playoff, like the West is bad. Like the West is bad. I think we just don't acknowledge that enough.
Play the winning style of hockey that they've been playing, right, Jake?
Yeah, we had this whole debate on the last podcast, which got Jake so much shit, and it was hilarious.
Felix set me up.
The Blues, the hockey club, the Flames,
God damn it. Why'd you have to say the hockey club?
The Utah Mammoth?
the Outlaws, the
No.
Ducks could jump these teams. It's not inconceivable.
It's more likely to me that they fall.
And now a second question, is it a disaster if they end up drafting like 13th?
No.
Does that? Oh no.
I mean, kind of.
Well,
it depends how they do it. It depends how they do it.
Yeah. It's how it happens.
If it's just doing what they've been doing, then I'm painting it as a disaster.
They've accumulated enough talent through the draft that wherever they draft is going to be fine. It's not going to hurt or it's not going to like harm them long term if they're 13th as compared to like 5th. It would be better if they were 5th, but like the whole purpose of them being bad is not really from like the draft perspective. It is from wanting the results to match up with the play so they don't buy into things that aren't there. I think that this draft is kind of icing on the cake for this team because realistically, this team should not even be in this position. They should be better than this.
Yeah, and that's my thing is what if the kids start playing better? And
Sure.
I mean, they're 3 points back of the hockey club with 2 games in hand.
Yeah, I mean, if you end up 13th or 14th draft position that way, I mean, I think that's totally fine by all of us.
Have we properly acknowledged how the West this year is not that great?
It really isn't.
I don't know. I guess there's Edmonton. Nobody seems to believe in Winnipeg. Dallas's blue line is just bad. Yeah, it's a weird year. It's a weird year to be in the Western Conference. Okay. Well, that's enough of that. Thank you for listening, everyone. And if you want to support the show, we will be back. There's a few very easy ways to do so. Number one is to go check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/crashthepond. For $2 a month, you get access to our patrons-only Discord server. You can up that pledge to $7.50 a month. You get access to bonus podcasts. We just did a post-game show for USA Canada, which was very spirited. You get to see me very depressed after that game. Also, some exclusive player breakdown videos. That's all at patreon.com/crashthepond. You can also leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. We love to hear from you guys there. Do appreciate that. Leave us feedback, and you can even leave a comment on Spotify now. The comments were coming for Jake's head last time.
Everyone was coming from my head.
I really set you up, and I feel terrible about it. So my apologies. But yes, that we're on Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can get the podcast there if you are a YouTube podcast person. And check out our website, Crash the Pond. Follow these guys, these lovely gents, on social media. We'll put their Twitter handles in the show notes, so make sure to support them. And we will talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Thank you.